Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. Where in today's video I'm going to be in the kitchen here doing another recipe. And this recipe is going to be done in probably 2 steps or so, but in this video alone we're going to do the first step, and that is a baked chicken. We're going to be taking that chicken at a later time and making that into a bigger recipe, but for the purposes of this video I want to show you guys what I do when I'm baking a chicken. I'll show you what ingredients I use, and if there's any of those ingredients along the way that you don't really like or you don't want to impart upon your chicken, feel free to leave them out, and I'm sure you'll end up with a great chicken. But we're going to get started now. I'll show you what ingredients I have listed off here for my baked chicken, and I'll go through the process and show you what I do to prepare and get that bird in the oven. Alright, so on the side I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 350 degrees, and we'll get that warming up while we get the chicken prepped and ready to go on in. So for my wall oven here I have a convection setting, and there's also traditional bake. It's going to go into a broiler, so I'm just going to use convection. Doesn't really make any difference. I'm going to be using 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll start that up on the preheat cycle. So that's all we're going to do with the oven here for now. Let's get back to the prep. So at this point, let's review what we're going to be using in this recipe. Obviously, the first thing we have here is just a standard size chicken, and this one is 1.35 kilos in size. Came from Walmart, and it was at this time of filming, or a little bit before, actually this was back in 2021 because it says best before November 1st. So anyways, we've had this frozen in the freezer, and back at that point in time this was $10.33. So that's probably about 15 bucks these days. Alright, so that's the chicken. As well, this recipe is going to be bigger than just a regular chicken. So I do have 4 extra chicken breasts, and those are from Costco. And I'll be adding those in as well. But that's just to give us more chicken for our future recipe. So beyond that, now I have a bowl. You'll see the purpose of that soon. Just a knife, 1 standard size onion, fist size or so. You can use an extra large one as well, but I would say at least go with a medium around there. Next to that I have a Knorr. This is a beef bouillon cube. And beef bouillon comes in different forms. You can get it in a powdered form, you can get it in almost like a jelly form. This one is actually in a chocolate wrapper type setting. Right, just looks like chocolate almost. But that is a beef bouillon cube. Next to that I have 1 package of OXO chicken bouillon. 35% less salt, but I'm not usually worried about salt. Just so happens that's the kind that we got. Next to that, some extra virgin olive oil. Don't really think the brand matters there as long as you got it. Some black pepper with the windmill grinder at the top. Some regular table salt. Pretty sure this is just Windsor iodized salt. Now this here, I'm actually a bit low. But this is not garlic powder. This is actually 1/3 garlic powder, 1/3 onion powder, and 1/3 paprika. And this is what I got left. Hopefully that'll be enough. And overall, I think that is all the ingredients. Right? Pretty simple, easy recipe. Like I say, baking a chicken is not a big ordeal, but you know, we gotta admit that sometimes doing recipes for the first time can be quite daunting. And I'm just here to guide you through the process of getting a chicken baked. We're not going to do any stuffing in this chicken, just so you know. But other than that, let's get to opening the chicken, giving it a rinse, and getting it ready. So this step here is not necessarily required. It depends on how particular you are or how you feel about the packaging processes of chicken and other meats. Me personally, I like to rinse all my meat with water before I prepare it for cooking. So I'm just going to go ahead, turn on some water, just gentle warm is fine since we're getting ready to cook it now. And I'm going to open up the chicken, and I got my bowl in the other sink, which I'll lay it in once it's rinsed. some of the main things that I'm doing when I'm rinsing a chicken, for one, sometimes they will give you a pack of the giblets. So that could be the neck, the liver, the heart, and you don't want to bake your chicken with the package of giblets still inside. Not that it won't turn out okay, but it's just not something you typically want to do. So basically I'm just taking my chicken, rinsing it under water, and I'm looking into different crevices of the chicken to see if there's any feathers that may have been missed. So like in the pit of the wing here, there's a couple of yellowish feathers, right? So I'm just picking those off, and basically almost like a little quality control. Again, just a little bit in the pit of the wing. And just giving the carcass a good rinse inside and out. Again, at the end of the leg here we have a bit of yellowed skin, we'll pick that off. And just giving it a gentle rub down while I rinse it. And then again, washing out the cavity, make sure there's no big amount of material still left in there. Not that it's a big deal, but this should all be fit to eat. So that's what I did, a quick little rinse. Sometimes I will remove any excess fat that you see hanging out of the cavity. So sometimes you'll see like this little extra bit of fat, and I'll just tear that away. And they'll just tear off. Other than that, see another little area of fat down here, and I'll just tear that out and off. And that's about it for rinsing your chicken at this point in time. So I'm going to get that put over in my bowl, and we'll go from there. Once your chicken is rinsed, what I like to do is just grab some paper towel, or if you have any kind of a dedicated cloth you'd like to use that's nice and clean, that's fine. But basically I'm going to pat dry the chicken. I'll just empty out any excess water, and I'm going to proceed to pat dry the outside of the chicken. That's pretty much sufficient there. Just get it generally dry. And then I'm going to dry out my bowl as well. Alright, like that. All dry, ready to be cooked. So let's head on over to the counter there now, and we'll get into the actual prep of the recipe. Alright, so since we've started with the chicken, I'm going to continue to finish the chicken prep first. So the next step that we want to do is add some oil to the outside layer of the chicken. This could be a couple of tablespoons, just enough to get a healthy coating on the outside of it. And then what you're going to want to do is kind of just mix your chicken around, make sure it's fully covered in oil. Alright, get the oil down in all the crevices. Doesn't take much to get it done, it spreads pretty easily. Pretty much just a nice uniform coating of oil on the chicken. Just like that. I'm going to keep my greasy hand separate from my clean hand. And now I'm going to do salt, just to little coating across the whole thing. Now, just gonna get some pepper on there. Like that. And then we'll go to our triple mix seasoning. And again, that's onion powder, garlic powder, and paprika. Going to be a very generous dose of that. Okay, at this point now I'm going to turn the chicken over to the other side. And we're going to do the same thing to the back. So again, just get some pepper on there. Some salt. Probably like 2.5 passes of salt is good. Give it a gentle shake. And then our triple mix seasoning. Quite generous again. So on top of all that now, this is when I apply my OXO chicken. Now for the chicken bouillon, I always use the powdered, just because of this purpose. And that is to use it as a seasoning. Right, so I try to loosen up the powder. I'm just going to sprinkle that on the back of it, save some in the package, flip the chicken over, put the rest on the front. There we are. So now, at this point, just going to give it a good rub, get the seasoning in everywhere. Flip it over, get the back. Really trying to get that oil to mix with all the seasonings and get it to stick to the skin as best you can. Back over to the front again. So you're getting a little bit down inside the cavity. You can kind of just shove your fingers in there and rub a bit around the ceiling of the cavity, we'll call it, and on the floor. Alright, you're really getting that seasoning over all the meat, all the skin. Alright, so when you're done, you pretty much have a nice uniform coating, like that. And that's ready to lay into the broiler. Alright, so I'm just using a small little roaster. I guess I should call it a roaster instead of a broiler. I'm not even sure, to be honest. But the big thing now for anyone new to this is recognizing the breast of the chicken from the back of the chicken. Basically, if you take the chicken, hold it up on your fingers, you'll notice the wings point to the front. Right? If they're naturally hanging like this, the wings point to the front. So you're going to want to rest the chicken on the back. And just place it right down in the middle of your roaster, like that. And once I have it situated in the roaster the way I like it, which is fine, just like this, I'm going to come back with my triple mix and give it one more coating, cover in any empty spots. Just like so. So if we're keeping track, this is how much I have left out of my shaker bottle. So I probably used a little over half of what I had there. If that gives you any idea whatsoever. Alright, so our chicken's in the roasting pot. That's step number 1 done. Let's move on to the second bit of prep. So the next bit of prep that we have is to chop up our onion. So not too much to that. I think, probably most people that are watching this by now have chopped up an onion before. But that's still an assumption on my part. Maybe you're starting off very new with cooking. If so, welcome to the cooking world. But basically I'm just peeling the onion and I'm going to just chop it up finely. It doesn't really matter how fine you chop it up, to be honest. But I just kind of have a way that I do my onions, and that typically involves cutting it in half, putting the halves cut side down, and then going from side to side, working across and holding it together. And then I go from bottom or top to bottom. And that gives me a pretty fine dicing. And I'll just do that again. And there we are. And you can pretty much go ahead and add your onion in around the chicken. I add it kind of evenly on all sides. Not a big deal, just kind of my thing. As long as you get it all in there is the main thing. Alright, so now we're going to go back to the sink and I'm going to fill this up with some water. Basically, as a reference point, I pretty much fill with water till it's just about to pour into the cavity. If it pours into the cavity, that's fine. Some of it will evaporate, but for the most part I try to keep the water from going into the cavity, just below that level where it would pour into the cavity. So as you can see, water has been added. I did go a little bit high with the water, but in this case it doesn't really matter. And that the main reason it doesn't matter this time is because I don't have any stuffing inside the carcass. So if I were to put a bread or stovetop like stuffing inside the carcass, the water now trying to fight its way into the cavity would basically start soaking into your dressing and your stuffing and giving you a really wet stuffing. So that's why you don't really want to go above the cavity level. But in this case we have no stuffing, so this bit of water in here, not worried about it whatsoever. And at this point now we're ready for our beef oxo cube, which to some people may be confusing, right? We're cooking a chicken but we're using beef oxo. I don't really have any good excuse to tell you for using beef oxo other than it just adds an amazing taste. So I'm just going to pop that in there and that's done. So at this point in time now, we're pretty much ready to put the cover on this and put it in the oven. But just because of the recipe that I got coming for you guys down the road, I have to add those chicken breasts in around this chicken. And I am going to cook them from frozen. So I'll go ahead, get those opened up, and we'll add that in around this chicken, and then we'll be ready to put it in the oven. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these chicken breasts opened up. Alright, so we'll go ahead and just fit our chicken breasts in around where they can go. There we are, just like that. Alright, so we'll get a top put on that. And that is ready for the oven. So normally with just the chicken, I'd set this at about 1 hour and 30 minutes and the chicken will be done every time. But where I do have 4 full chicken breasts which are still frozen placed in there with the chicken, I'm going to add it up to about 1 hour and 45 and I'll check it from there. It should be done, but just in case it's not, we'll be ready for that. And that's it. 1 hour and 45 is set on the timer. It's at 350 and set it and forget it. Wait for the timer. So I'll see you back here in about 1 hour and 45 minutes and we'll see how the progress is going on the chicken. Alright, it's done. It's been 1 hour and 45 minutes. It should be done, I should say. I can't see it not being done. So let's get this over onto the cooktop and have a look. Okay, so we got our moment of truth here now. Oh yeah. Alright, there you have it. A lovely, I guess we call it a braised chicken. Alright, it's not exactly a baked, it's not exactly a roasted. We call this a braised chicken, and that's when you put it in an enclosed environment with liquid and you get a combination of baking and steaming. So yeah, everything looks great. I'm actually drooling just a little bit. Alright, I'm going to take out the chicken breasts, get those removed. Nice and tender. There we go. So there's our chicken. We'll get this removed now out of the pot and we'll get into piecing this up a little bit and we'll clue up from there. Alright, so with your chicken done, one of the challenges that you'll encounter is lifting it up out of the roaster in one piece. I'm going to attempt it, no guarantees, but I'll share with you what I find usually works. And depending on the chicken itself, it may hold together with 2 forks. So I'm going to try that first. If it doesn't look like it's going well, I can switch over to 2 spatulas. I pretty much just hug the chicken with 2 forks. Let the juices dribble a little bit and then down onto the plate. Alright, so that was pretty smooth and effortless. So that's that. So from here now, I'm going to move this plate on over to the counter. I'll take you guys with me and I'll show you how I piece this out. Alrighty, so I'll take the chicken over. I usually set it up so the legs are down towards me. And I'll zoom you guys in a little bit here. Alright, so with the chicken, the legs facing down towards me, I always begin with the thigh and the leg. This skin here, connecting the body to the leg, I'll cut down through that. And already you can tell how the meat has fallen apart from the leg. So basically you just kind of trace along here, free up this little bit of tissue to the cavity. With your fork you can lift up on the breast, push down on the leg, and it'll expose the joint down in this area inside here. And with a little push of your knife you can see the joint start to separate, and just go straight down and pull that away. Right, so you can tell how tender this chicken is right now. Alright, so that leg would be considered pieced out already. So I'll put that over on our plate. And we got some more good meat there that I'll move over. Then I'll do the same thing for this leg. And cutting down through the skin, the meat kind of falls away from the body. Push, giving it a little bit of separation pressure. The joint here separates. And you can really just pull it apart. Okay, so there's your drum and thigh separated again. Again, you get some nice meat there. Collect that, keep that. Next, I move on to the wing. The wing I still find a little bit challenging at times because the drum of the wing tends to be so tender that it falls apart before you can actually separate it. So I kind of trace down along the breast, cutting straight back. And it typically ends up separating the drum meat at the same time. Again, you can kind of just go down, the joint separates here, and you can push it to the side. Okay, we'll take that wing, move that over onto the plate. Again, I'll try to do that again. The wing fall to the side, cut in a little bit, and then just kind of pry apart. You can just kind of lift the breast away from the wing meat. Let your knife fall between the joints and pull. Okay, so that's another piece done. So now at this point, you're left with the main carcass. You're going to find the middle of the top of the carcass. Start cutting down on the side of what you feel would be the breastbone. I'll cut on my side and expose the breastbone for you to see. Okay, and I'm not cutting bone, I'm just letting the knife follow the bone contour while giving it a gentle rocking motion. And when the breastbone
forces your knife to scoop, you scoop with it and go with it. And let the meat fall to the side and just disconnect any connections. Right, any bones going into the breast, you can pull them away. Any extra skin or anything like that, just pull it away. And there you have the breast. Okay. There you go, that's the separated breast. So now we'll go to the other side of the carcass, repeat the process. It's pretty much falling away from the bones here now at this point. But basically we'll just let it fall to the side, trace down along the ribs, cut any bone that you see causing a connection. And making sure your knife is not cutting any bone, you're not scraping any bone, you're just following it. And just pull it out wherever it's sticking into it. And double check this side back here. And there's another fully intact breast. So at this point in time we've removed most of the meat. Right? Any spot where you're going to see any meat left may be in the wing area that you may have not gotten before. Some people eat the tail. I don't personally eat it. Other than that, you'll just get some rib meat. Underneath the carcass, typically on the back, you will find a bit more meat. Kind of thin rib meat. And you can go through and collect that. Usually back here, just above where the rear legs would have attached, you'll get a little chunk of meat, like that size. And same thing on the other side. It's almost like it's inside the hip. There we are. So for the most part, that chicken is pieced up. You can serve it up in those pieces that we just took off, or now you can go to those pieces and break them down further into, smaller bite-sized pieces, depending on how you want to serve it. But for now, you can pick over the carcass, get small pieces of meat off of it, although the majority of meat has been removed, and over on the serving plate. Right, nothing left there, a few little bits left down in the juice. Okay, so that is piecing out a chicken, nice and easy. All this bone and material I will be keeping. That'll be used in our next recipe. But for the most part, the chicken is done and deboned and ready to be served. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is taking a whole chicken from raw to baked using my recipe. I hope you enjoyed it so far. If you've stayed to this point in the video, I really appreciate you guys and the dedication that you show for our videos. And I hope you'll try this recipe yourself. I know most people that are watching this video have probably baked a chicken before themselves, but maybe there was something different that I did that you might want to try or incorporate into your recipe. Now, if you've stayed this long, it's a bonus now that I can tell you this whole chicken
is going to be going towards another recipe, and that video will be coming someday soon. I'm busy over the next few days, so it won't be for a little bit, but I'm going to be making a nice homemade chicken soup. So I had the chicken out and I already had it thawed. I didn't want to refreeze it, and I didn't want it sitting in the refrigerator too long, so I went ahead and made this video to get the chicken made. But I'm going to be breaking it down now into meat and bone and everything, and I'll be using the carcass to make a broth for the homemade soup, and reincorporating the chicken back into the soup and all that stuff. So since you stayed so long, I figured I'd let you in on what the next recipe will be, and hopefully you'll join us for that one as well. I'll end this video now with a little bit of outro footage of just breaking down and deboning the rest of the chicken there, if you want to just follow along and finish off watching that. But otherwise, if you want to click off the video, now's about the time, and hopefully you'll join us in the next video. And until that next video happens, hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, take care of each other, and peace out.